A tall, abandoned building stretched toward the gray sky like the skeleton of an ancient titan, long since stripped of its flesh. The dusty windows were covered with cracks, through which the dim light of the fading day was breaking through. The city behind him seemed infinitely distant, as if it were a second reality, where one could still breathe deeply. Alex stood at the foot of this giant and looked up, feeling his heart slowly filling with anxiety. They say that from the same roof there is such a view that life ceases to be the same, he whispered under his breath. He began to climb. At first his steps were confident, but with each flight it became more and more difficult. It seemed that the air inside the building was thicker than usual, viscous, saturated with dust, with some smell of rot and old paint. The stairs creaked as if the building was alive, and not because someone had stepped on its bones again. On the fourth floor, he noticed the first oddity. Symbols appeared on the walls, crooked, jagged lines as if scratched by claws. They seemed ancient, distorted, vibrating in his field of vision. Alex tried not to pay attention. Maybe it was just some crazy graffiti. But the higher he climbed, the more clearly he felt someone's presence. On the fifth floor, he heard footsteps. Someone came down from above. They echoed in the concrete walls, approaching, but no one was visible. Alex stopped, leaned against the wall to catch his breath and wait for someone to come. However, the footsteps stopped as suddenly as they had begun. Not a single door opened, not a single rustle, only silence, deaf, viscous, like resin. Maybe I imagined it, he thought, but shaking slightly, he continued on his way. Now he tried to go faster. A silhouette flashed on the seventh floor. A tall man in a long coat entered through a half-ruined door. Alex hurried after him, but the closer he got to the door, the clearer it became. When he extended his hand to her, she disappeared, leaving behind only a bare wall. He punched her once, twice, rage and confusion mixing in his throat. He raised his head and for the first time saw a weak light seeping through the door onto the roof. He was almost there. On the roof, Alex breathed in the fresh air for the first time in a long time. And then he saw him, the silhouette of a man standing on the very edge. Alex wanted to say something, but stepped into the void without saying a word. He rushed to the edge, but there was no one below, only darkness and emptiness. From the darkness came a whisper. "Alex, I'm sorry." He turned around and saw the man again. He stood right in front of him, looking through him, inside, as if he knew everything. And then he closed the door behind him. Alex rushed to it, but it was locked. He yanked at the handle, hit it, screamed, nothing. Now he was alone. The view from the roof opened up, but Alex couldn't enjoy it. The city below no longer seemed alive. It was rotting. People moved like puppets, their faces etched with masks of hatred, fatigue, pain. Alex heard their thoughts, torn, cruel, full of evil and despair. He came out of the ventilation shaft in a black cloak, his face hidden by a hood. "Hello, Alex," the Ucharonet said. "Who are you?" he asked, stepping back. "I was just watching, like now." Why did everything change? Why was everything different down there. Because you saw what you wanted, and now you see the truth. Here, you see a world without illusions. Watch. Alex looked down and saw a figure glowing with a soft golden light. Who is this? Firefly, those who bring joy. If you are his Vichich, he is yours. Mine? Yes, he may be your last hope. And then it began. Dozens, hundreds of translucent silhouettes, pale, faceless, began to run to the edge of the roof and jump, one after another, without a sound. Their faces disappeared like smoke in the wind. Who are they? Alex asked, horrified. The ones who stayed here forever, the ones who couldn't get out. Now, only down. Me? I can't either? That's right. You have to wait until someone comes in here and opens it. After that, you can go in. There must always be a caretaker on this roof. Right now, it's you. When he comes in here, you will know everything about his life, his name, who his parents are, even what illnesses he had as a child. When you go down, everyone who comes up here, you will be able to convince them not to go up, but you will take their place here and will not be able to go down anymore. But you will be able to go into the wall and not be seen, and you will miss them. So that's how it is. No one warned me when I went up here. It's up to you, said the stranger, and disappeared in an instant as if he had never been there. The old man was the first to rise. His steps were uneven, as if he was not walking, but dragging his own body behind him. He was thin, like a shadow, scorched by the sun and time. The skin hung on him in rags. His hands trembled so much that the bottle of cheap wine in his fingers rang like the last bell before death. A nasty trail of smells stretched from behind his long, unwashed coat. Dampness, rot, and the sickening sour smell of old age. Alex hid behind a wide pipe from which steam was coming out, black as smoke. It was hot, but the warm moisture did not warm him, but seemed to corrode his skin, leaving a strange metallic taste in his mouth. From the depths of the pipe came a buzzing sound, as if someone was whispering in his ear, in another language with a different timbre, not human. His life is emptiness. I am more important. The thought was clear, but the voice uttering it was not his own. He closed the door. The click sounded too loud, like a coffin lid slamming, and rushed down. On the fourth floor, he caught a glimpse of a guy, a student, his eyes on the phone, his ears plugged with headphones. The music was too loud, but strangely, Alex heard it too, although he was far away, and not through the headphones, directly in his head. He leaned against a wall, but it was warm, as if a huge heart was beating behind him. The stairs vibrated, and it seemed as if the building itself was alive. It was breathing, wheezing, watching. On the second floor, he heard voices. Alex looked out from behind the wall and saw a couple, a young guy and a pregnant girl. She held her hands on her stomach, and although she walked confidently, her face was deathly pale. In her eyes, fatigue and unconscious fear. The guy pressed her to himself encouragingly, but his whole body was tense, like an animal sensing a predator nearby. He retreated. Without thinking, he rushed to the nearest door and pulled the handle. The door closed by itself, abruptly and dully, like the lid of an old coffin. The light disappeared. A thick, viscous darkness reigned inside. There, in the darkness, the walls began to breathe quietly. Alex felt it with his whole body. Inhale, exhale, as if the building itself was alive, and he found himself inside its lungs. Something whispered right into the back of his head with a cold breath. You are here for a reason. Alex continued on his way. On the first floor, his heart was pounding as if it wanted to break out of his chest, run away. The walls here were different, old, as if covered with a mold of time. The paint was peeling off, revealing what did not seem to be brick, but living flesh, pulsating under the plaster. The ceiling creaked, but there was no wood or metal in this creaking, as if something was crawling in the thickness of the concrete slabs, slowly, with pleasure. Alex approached the front door. It looked different. The very opening through which he once entered inside now seemed too narrow, distorted, as if it had been swallowed and spat out. The door handle was wet, cold, as if a dead man had just held it. He froze for a moment. Everything inside him screamed, "Don't open it!" But there was no choice. He reached out, touched, and at that moment, something moved in the keyhole, as if someone was breathing in his approach from inside the door. Click. The lock worked. He pushed the door forward, and he stepped. Ahead, he stood, a silhouette, the same man in the dark. Only now he wasn't just standing there. He seemed to be drawing the darkness out of the air, as if the whole world around him were thickening toward him. His cloak was fluttering not in the wind, but as if it were a living, breathing creature. Alex was back on the roof. "I told you, you'll have a chance. Now your path is down." No, wait. There is no forgiveness without sacrifice. You chose yourself. Now, you are one of them. Silhouettes began to appear around him again, faces without eyes, mouths distorted in a scream. They whispered his name, came closer. Alex retreated back, closer and closer to the edge, and when he looked back, the entire city below was strewn with shadows. You had a chance to get out of here. Unfortunately, you have only one way out, to jump and join all those who are below in this world where there is no light and hope for a bright light. Alex took a step